Shalom, shalom, everyone. It's a great honor and joy to do what is a big first for me, which is to actually do a whole recorded lecture. I usually give classes that can be 2.5, 3 hours, but when there's a live audience online, it can actually be a lot easier. Ahead of Pesach, ahead of Passover, we're going to be dealing with what should be a simple question, but unfortunately, since common sense is not that common today, and really we don't have to be so harsh. We're living in a generation which is lacking a lot of the skills of critical thinking that past generations did. We're dealing with a very, very simple and very critical question for mainly the rest of the world. Are today's Jews really from the same people who left Egypt? So we're calling this celebrating a 3,500-year tradition of dress, hairstyles, and Jewish genes. Of course, heaven forbid, chas v'shalom, no one should imagine that we're thinking that Jews are in any way genetically superior to anybody, or that we're talking about, how can you say, some sort of an elitist interpretation of chosen people. Far from it. But you're going to see in the images that we're going to soon share, that there really is a 3,500-year tradition of dress and hairstyles, and yes, what we can call very loosely Jewish genes that we can really prove today. And I don't take that word lightly. I'm a real proponent of the idea that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and I hope to share with you all some extraordinary evidence today. We're going to be learning about the marvels of Jewish genetics for dummies, so to speak, proving core Torah tradition. That's what we're going to start with. Now, really, first of all, before we get into the whole idea of Jewish genetics, so to speak, let's get a grip on some very, very important sources that will really give us the right perspective on things. Again, let's be really, really clear when we talk about Jewish genes, so to speak. We're not talking about anything that is of the least importance whatsoever halachically. In other words, from the point of view of Torah, from the point of view of Jewish law. In other words, we're going to be dealing with the science of genetics, which is really something that does not affect halakha. Perhaps when it comes to establishing one's lineage, if one's maternal lineage is Jewish, if you can find, overwhelming evidence on your maternal line that you should be Jewish, perhaps it should be a part of halakha, it should be a force in Jewish law, but it's not. Let's look at some of these sources to look at a Torah true perspective on genes as if it matters, really, ultimately, where you come from genetically. This is a response from the Rambam to Obadiah Hager. Let not your own lineage be light in your eyes. Remember, he's speaking to a person who was born a non-Jew. If we born Jews have lineage to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you, a convert, have lineage to he who spoke and the world came to be. In other words, you can call yourself a child of Hashem. And this is such an authentic Torah perspective. When Hashem rebukes Moses and he tells him to tell the Pharaoh, Beni Bachore Israel, my son, my firstborn is Israel. This entails that we are to have non-Jewish brothers, brother nations, brother peoples. Check this out. More dear to the Holy One, blessed be He, is the convert than those populations that stood at Mount Sinai. Again, genes don't seem to matter too much to the Holy One, blessed be He. again, we just don't even have time to get into all of these sources. Check this out. Let's take a look at prophecy for non-Jews. Commenting on Judges 4, chapter 4, verse 4, about Devorah, the sages of the Talmudic sages taught, and this is recorded in the Midrash Yalkut Shimoni, I bring heaven and earth to witness that the divine spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, rests upon a non-Jew as well as upon a Jew, upon a woman as well as upon a man, upon a maidservant as well as a manservant. All depends on the deeds of the particular individual. Okay? So I hope that you guys are really coming to understand that when we speak in universalist terms about the love of Hashem for all of humanity from a perspective of Torah, we're not trying to be politically correct. Okay? We're not just trying to be this, kumbaya, love everybody, 21st century, postmodernist, everybody, love everybody. These are core Torah values. Okay, but again, we're usually when we're talking about, contesting the identity of the Jewish people, we are generally not dealing with the nicest of people. We are dealing usually with haters, and therefore we need to bring some extraordinary evidence that is really quite irrefutable. And for that, I'm going to bring a beautiful book that I just love. And I don't love it because it happens to, make me feel good as a Jew merely, but because it is a book of facts, a book of serious science, hard science, the science of genetics. DNA and the Bible, the genetic link, by a Rabbi Kleiman. It's available through Lightcatcher Books. You can find it at lightcatcherbooks.com. From their main page, go to All Products, and you'll find it right there, or you can get it through Amazon.com. And it deals with some of the primary research of Dr. Skorecki, or Skorecki, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name. Professor Karl Skorecki is the director of the Rappaport Research Institute, the director of nephrology at Rambam Medical Center in Israel. That belongs to the Technion, the Israel Institute of Technology, the heart of what is called the Silicon Valley of the Middle East. And the work that he has done together with geneticists from around the world. So basically what they dealt with, of course, these are the discoverers of what we call the Cohen gene. Okay? Now that's really a misnomer. There's no actual Cohen gene. But basically, Dr. Skorecki and his associates gathering hundreds of DNA samples and expanding their selection of Y chromosome markers, they found that there is a common ancestor for the large majority of Jews who claim that they are Kohanim, that they are descendants of the priesthood, which is a patrilineal descent from Aaron. Aaron the priest, the brother of Moses, Moshe. And again, their hypothesis that they're testing is that if Jewish tradition is true, then a statistically significant percentage of people who have an oral tradition from father to son, father to son, father to son, that they are from the Kohen line. It will be found on their Y chromosome, some kind of an indication that they come from a single paternal ancestor somewhere between 3,000, 3,500 years ago. Indeed, they found a particular array of 6 chromosomal markers, okay, in 97 of 106 Kohanim tested. That's actually the second study that they did. The very first study was published in the prestigious British science journal Nature on January 2nd, 1997. 188 Jewish males were asked to contribute cheek cells from which their DNA was extracted for study. And the results were so statistically significant that it has surprised people all over the world. Now, you don't just get published in a scientific, in a science journal on the level of Nature for nothing. You don't. How can you say in these kinds of degrees, in these sorts of positions, okay, that Skorecki and his colleagues have? These are not things that they hand out for free. For example, Skorecki worked together with Professor Michael Hammer of the University of Arizona, a leading researcher in molecular genetics and a pioneer in Y chromosomal research. They worked together also with Neil Bradman and his colleagues at the University College of London, who were also investigating the genetic history of Jewish populations. Okay, so again, this is incredible. The findings point to a high percentage. We're talking about something like 80% or more of today's Kohanim. Again, people who have an oral tradition from within their family that they are Kohen priests or from the priestly clan, that they indeed possess the same DNA lineage markers, okay, that basically tie them to an individual who lived about 3,200 years ago. And this is so significant, many people don't realize it right away. First of all, for that to happen, there needed to have been a very high degree of fidelity among the wives, okay, of Kohanim over the generations. So in other words, we have, even just embedded within this study, we really have really incredible evidence for the good character of these people, their family values. I'm just going to give you a quote here from a Dr. David Goldstein, a molecular geneticist at Oxford University. They don't hire people at Oxford University, okay, because of their good looks. And he writes as follows: it looks like this chromosomal type was a constituent, okay, of the ancestral Hebrew population. In other words, that this comes from the original founding population of the Hebrews. I'm continuing his words. It was incredibly exciting to find something that could be tracing paternally inherited traits for over 100 generations, 3,000 or 4,000 years of history. Okay? Anyway, so basically the Kohen priests, what's incredibly exciting about them is that they are found among all of the how can I say, the major communities of the diaspora of Israel's ancient, long exile, our far-flung communities across the world. Our Ashkenazis, or European Jews, our Sephardic Jews, Mizrahi Jews of the East, and the Yemenites. I'll just name drop a few more big names. Matt Kaplan, and was part of the team with Professor Michael Hammer at the University of Arizona at Tucson. We have Dr. Harry Osterer and Associates at New York University. People on the Skorecki team include doctors Doron Bihar and Dror Rosengarten at the Technion Rambam Medical Center in Haifa University. And by the way, anybody who knows anything about the academic scene in Israel, okay, can know very, very well that Israeli academics are no chest-beating, how can you say, proponents for Torah or for proving the Torah. It is a secular society, and the standards of academia in Israel are among the highest in the world, which is one of the reasons why which is probably the capital reason why the efforts of the BDS movement routinely fail. The academia of the world understands how important Israeli research is. They spoke more research was done on not just Kohanim, but Jewish men from communities in the Near East, Iran, Iraq, Kurds, Yemenites, and Roman Jews, as well as, of course, the Ashkenazim, the European Jews, all have very similar, almost identical genetic profiles. Although the Ashkenazi European communities separated from their Mediterranean ancestors some 1,200 years ago and lived among Central and Eastern European Gentiles, their paternal gene pool, the gene pool through the fathers, resembles that of other Jewish and Semitic groups originating in the Middle East. The results also indicate a low level of male admixture, meaning intermarriage, conversion, rape, etc., into the gene pool of these various Jewish communities. Basically, since the Jews first settled in Europe more than 50 generations ago, the intermarriage rate was estimated to be about 0.5% in each generation. The general Ashkenazi paternal gene pool does not appear to be similar to that of present-day Turkish speakers. So this finding opposes the suggestion that most Ashkenazic Jews, are descended from the Khazars, a Central Asian empire that converted to Judaism en masse in or about the 8th century CE. And yet, of course, the case of Khazar ancestry is certainly far from closed. They actually found, would appear to be an influx of Khazar genes, among the Levites of the Ashkenazi Levites. Talking about the women, most surprisingly to many people, and again, why am I talking so much about the Ashkenazi? Personally, I'm Sephardic. My mother, of course, were Ashkenazi, Baruch Hashem, but through my father, we're very proud Sephardim. But the reason why it's so important to speak about the Ashkenazim is that they're just so typically, they're so routinely picked on, for being so non-Semitic. Look how white they are. Look how there's so many people blonde and blue-eyed among them. These are not Semites. These are not Hebrews. So, first of all, and again, I'm going to quote from Rabbi Kleiman, the research findings indicate that Jewish communities worldwide are related to each other and can trace their origin to the Middle East, and that, of course, despite noticeable differences in appearance between Jews of various communal backgrounds. The traits of skin coloration, hair color and texture, facial and body traits are quite literally superficial, and that they affect exposed surfaces of the body. It is reasonable to suggest that variation in these traits may reflect differential selection by climate. Guys, it's an effect of climate in various parts of the world. Variation is an adaptive response, an evolutionary response to selection for different alleles, slight differences in the same gene in different environments. If a population of 1,000 people absorbs 5 new people via exogamous marriage, meaning an outsider marries in, the increment is indeed but 0.5% of its overall numbers, right? If this rate continues, right? Think about it, 0.5% of intermarriage each and every generation for 80 generations, okay? Each time, 0.5% of the genes being so-called foreign genes, okay, entering the gene pool. This would be adequate to explain such apparently puzzling features in many Ashkenazim as blonde hair and blue eyes, infrequently encountered among other Jews. And that's a quote actually from Hillel Halkin, who was another great researcher on this subject. So, but anyway, the final point that I'm going to make on this, and I think it's very moving to me personally, having an Ashkenazic Jewish mother, is that you would expect that wherever the Jews went, of course, they converted local women. There was probably a larger influx of foreign females into the gene pool. This is indeed, okay, something that you do see actually in Sephardic populations, and the Ashkenazim as well. But what's incredible is that if you're looking for what is perhaps the purest Jewish or ancestral Hebrew gene pool on empty DNA, this mitochondrial DNA that is inherited through the mother, in other words, the purest maternal Hebrew, ancient ancestral Jewish genes on the maternal line, that's actually to be found among the Ashkenazim. It's found that 40% of Ashkenazic women are descended from 4 ancestral foremothers who originated from the Middle East thousands of years ago, from the Near East. Really, really incredible. Okay, so again, that Hashem could care less. The final thing I'll say on this is a beautiful quote from perhaps my principal Torah teacher, Mori Shelomo, who always is fond of saying, all human hardware can run Torah software. And you can find more in my guide for the Noahide on these ideas, and Bezrat Hashem, we're coming up with our 3rd edition soon, which will hopefully have a much more expanded section on the subject of the authentic universalist perspective of the Torah. Okay, moving on to Jewish dress and Jewish haircut styles, celebrating a tradition 3,500 years old. So I'm going to show you guys some amazing slides. Let's look at the ancient customary haircut of long side locks. Most people are aware that not only do Hasidic Jews have long side locks, hailing from Eastern Europe, but also Yemenite Jews do as well. That right there, should be an indication that the Ashkenazim, are of a very, very great antiquity. Anyone who knows very much about Jews understands the deep, deep antiquity of the customs of Yemenite Jews. And what's incredible, of course, is that in Yemen, you had other ancient haircuts such as the Nazarite look. Okay, you can see in this picture of Habani Jews at the Passover Seder. You can see their great locks, their Nazarite locks. And again, this is what we're going to be looking for in history. Okay, so hold on a second. Let's go out here for a minute, and let's understand that among the ancient Semites, okay, such as the Canaanites, you had, how can you say, their sideburns were shaved. Okay, so these are images of other Semites, non-Israelite Semites. Okay, this one is from ancient Egypt. Okay, as is this one. Again, you can tell that these are Semitic peoples from their beards. Okay, notice the shaven side locks. This is a Canaanite from around 1800 BCE. Okay, this is an Assyrian, and an image of an Assyrian from around 2100 BCE. Okay, notice the shaven side locks. Okay, so what we're talking about is a uniquely Israelite, what's most assumedly a uniquely Israelite trait. Okay, so first of all, let's go back to ancient Egypt. Now it's important to understand, okay, that when we see side locks, okay, in ancient Egyptian art, okay, this does not necessarily mean that these people were Israelites, and yet, in certain images, it's really quite possible. But there were other peoples who had long side locks as well. For example, the Libyans. Here you can see a tattooed individual. Not very likely that he was Israelite, and yet he has long side locks. But it's something that simply goes back very, very, very far in history. Okay, that's really a mistake that you see here in the caption, the early 3rd century BCE. No way. This is from this is actually pre-flood. Okay, this is something that is about 3100. This is probably from about 3100 BCE. This is one of the earliest kings of ancient Egyptian history. Okay, and yet we see here what appears to be a Semite, okay, with long side locks. This is called a Narmer palette, okay, and in it you're going to see what appears to be an enemy, okay, of this king, okay, with long side locks. Okay, so again, we're not, being, these simpletons, these simplistic, Bible thumpers going and saying, look, long side locks, it must be Hebrews. However, when you get to the footstool of King Tut, King Tutankhamun, okay, it really cannot be otherwise. According to the revised chronology, which is simply so well established. You could read a lot about that in the writings of David Rohl. The new chronologists have so clearly won, in my mind, okay, the arguments when it comes to the correct approach to Egyptian chronology. King Tut actually falls into the period of the late judges, okay, or the early monarchy of ancient Israel. And the Pharaoh, okay, would symbolically put his feet upon his enemies. So he would have this. He had this footstool with images of Israelites, and, as I'm interpreting it, and Nubians. And let's go back. And he, by the way, he also on his cane. This is the cane that they found in his tomb. You can see on, he would put his hand, his palm, and grasp, and squeeze his enemies symbolically, because that gave him his jollies. You can see on one side, you see a clear a Semite, probably an Israelite, and not necessarily, and you have a Nubian on the other side. But let's look here at this incredible footstool. And first of all, you cannot help but notice along the same pattern of, and again, Semite, Nubian, Semite, Nubian. Again, who were the Semites in those days? And who did the Egyptians hate the most? Who was sort of blocking their way into Asia? Okay, obviously the new power which had arisen in the land of Canaan, which is the people of Israel. And you have here an individual with side locks, long side locks. You have this guy with a Chabani look, okay, clearly an ancient Israelite. And this is absolutely wild. I'm going to flip this around. Okay, this is the other side. Okay, this is amazing as well. But okay, you have another individual here with long side locks. Okay, Nubian, another guy sporting the Chabani look, clearly an Israelite of some kind, a Nubian. And look at this old man. Okay, none of the individuals, okay, have these straps, these black bands, okay, on his arm. Could these be tefillin straps? Happens to be a commandment, a biblical commandment for a Jew to try to be in tefillin throughout the day. Is it possible that a particularly pious Israelite captured by the Egyptians would still have his arm tefillah, his arm phylactery still on? Remember that the head phylactery and the arm phylactery are two separate commandments which can, although not ideally, be fulfilled separately. So that's ancient Egypt, okay? But there's actually more. So in this image, okay, which is from Horemheb, which these definitely appear to be Israelite, captured Israelites, with little doubt. If you look at the chronology, it just makes a lot of sense. And check out this particular individual down below with the long side locks, like a yeshiva bocher, like a chassid of our days. Look at this man who appears to be crying out to heaven for mercy. Okay, let's continue. Okay, from this bas-relief, we also have what appear to be Semites with long side locks. Okay, now we're getting into Babylonian times. Okay, notice how in this particular image you have what is clearly a Semite with long side locks. In other words, this is an ancient hairstyle, okay, that dates back to biblical times. But this is really, really incredible. Here we actually have, okay, Persian Arameans, an image of Persian, quote-unquote, Arameans. They're actually Israelites, I believe, bringing tribute to the Persian king in the early 5th century BCE. This is actually shortly after or around the time of the events of Purim. Okay, this is the heyday of ancient Persia. at the palace at Apadana. Look at the long side locks behind their ears, not unsimilar to my own. But I have to admit, I think their hairstyle is much more beautiful. Here's another image of the same thing, closer up. We're moving into Roman times, okay? Here are minted Roman coins, and you can see, this is a coin that was minted to celebrate the defeat of the Jews, of the Judeans, and you can see that the Roman soldier here is standing over what appears to be a Jewish hero, and look, he happens to have side locks. Okay. Now this one, okay, Judea Capta. This was minted under the reign of Vespasian, okay, who caught the conqueror of Jerusalem, of Yerushalayim. Look at the defeated Jew and look at his side locks. Okay. Okay. So now that we've finished that, let's now go to Simonim, to long payot in the diaspora among Ashkenazis. Okay. You can see Jews in Vienna. Okay. With long side locks. Okay. You have Rav Aryeh Leib, Lowenstein. That could just actually be that he simply has a lot of hair. Perhaps he was, that was also a common hairstyle in those times. But this is much more clear. An image from 1389 of the Common Era from Vienna. Incredible, incredible image there. Okay, let's go back to that. And let's go back now. And of course, we don't even need to see all of these. Okay, look at this. An Afghani Jew with side locks. Okay, what seems to be a Kochini Jew, okay, if I'm not mistaken, with side locks. Bukharan Jew. Yeah, he was from Cochin. A Jew from Turkestan with long side locks. A Georgian Jew. Not very clear, but if you look carefully, you can barely make them out. Another Georgian Jew. This is clearer. Okay, we're simply, and of course, this is one of the most beautiful pictures that are out there of Chabanis. And again, this is that Nazarite look that, if you remember back to the Egyptian images, you see Jews sporting that hairstyle as well. Okay, and again, these are pictures taken from the 1960s, the Minyanam, or 1950s. Okay, I don't think there can be much doubt that the Jews, okay, of today, okay, are mostly, okay, descendants of the ancient Jews of deep antiquity. Here you can see images of Sephardic Jews, right? In Israel, it's very common to even see very pious religious Sephardic Jews without long side locks. And yet if you go back even just 100 years, you'll find them. Okay, we have look at these Kurdish Jewish boys from Kurdistan. Their genetics are hardly distinct from that of other Jewish communities, and yet their genes are very distinct from the non-Jews around them. Okay, so again, there's simply so much to show, but not enough time. Let's take a quick look at clothing. Who would have known that even our clothing has deep roots in ancient times? So, for example, and again, I'd be surprised, okay, to find what we might consider to be, Israelite clothing among other peoples. Like, for example, the people that they call the ancient Libyans. Who knows what connection they may have had to the ancient Israelites? Remember, in ancient Egypt, this is a point that David Rold likes to make, and it's very apt. In ancient Egypt, all Israelites were Hebrews, but not all Hebrews were Israelite. Here we have an individual with long side locks, okay, and these sashes, which were probably to hold a shield. Okay, if you look at the next image, hold on a second, we can see images, okay, from Yemen, which the one who supplied me with these believes that they are actually Jews, Yemenite Jews. Hold on a second. This is the image that I was for particularly. I don't know why it's opening it up in Microsoft Paint. Okay. Now I want you to think, okay, to the stripes on our talitot. It seems to be that stripes seems to be something that goes back to a common Semitic common Semitic meme in dress that goes back about 3,500 years. This is a picture of Semites entering the land of Egypt. This could very well, okay, have been a picture, but it certainly, we do not need to be so simplistic as to say that this is them. But this could very well have been like a portrait of the ancient Israelites entering Egypt from Canaan, from the land of Canaan. Look at the stripes on their tunics. Another image, okay, from ancient Egypt. Hold on a second. Okay, there's actually fringes, okay, on the tunics of Semites. I personally would be reticent to say that these are Hebrews because they have shaved off side locks. But this could be a sister tradition among cousin tribes of ours in Egypt. I hope that you gained a new sensitivity to the deep antiquity of the means of hairstyle and dress among the Jewish people that have continued until this day. And when we Jews have this commandment that every person, every Jew must see himself as though he or she had personally come out of Egypt, him or herself. And hopefully, the Jews who are watching this can feel that more deeply after having seen this, and hopefully the rest of the world can have perhaps a deepened respect for the antiquity of the Jews and our deep history. And of course, any people who has been around as an integral people for so many thousands of years are probably going to have a very important perspective on life and every aspect of life that warrants respect and study and consideration. A happy Passover, a Pesach Kasher v'Sameach to all of the Jewish people and to all of the world.